You're listening to the Love Over Addiction podcast.
Thank you so much for agreeing to share your story. I am particularly excited for you to be on because I know this all has a wonderful, happy ending. And so I'm just really grateful. Thank you for volunteering.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I hope that my story can help others. And if I even help just one lovely lady make the life-changing leap of faith to leave, I've made a difference.
I know your story, and I know it's absolutely going to have a huge impact. So let's start from the beginning. The question I always ask is, how did you meet your ex-husband, and when did you start to know there was a problem?
So I met my ex-husband 15 years ago, and he was a wrestling coach for my three boys at the time. Were young, 9, 5, and 3, I think is how old they were. And I knew he had a drinking problem right away, because when I met him, he had just gotten his third DWI. He did not have a driver's license. He didn't even have a vehicle that he could drive. And so red flag, tons of red flags. But of course, me being the person that I am, I thought that I could help him, I could save him, and that he was a good person that just made bad choices was my thinking. Even though this was something that ran super deep in his making. Like he is through and through alcoholic, and I'm not an alcoholic. I didn't at the time, 15 years ago, I didn't really understand what it's like. I don't struggle with any kind of dependency, so I didn't think that it was necessarily a disease that couldn't be cured, I guess.
So when you started to realize there was a problem, what was some of the specific red flags, or what did you feel like you had to do, or what was your reaction?
So I first started dating him in summertime, in August, September. By November, so I had said he got his third DWI, so he was having to, check in and do all of these things before he went to court. So already by November, he was supposed to meet my family for the first time for Thanksgiving, and he got arrested again for being intoxicated. And so right away, I'm like, oh, okay, this maybe is more of a problem than he's leading on. So then, still again, I'm thinking it's okay, he's gonna do the right thing, and he's gonna get sober. So, what I didn't, say also is that, so I came into this relationship with three young boys. So I'm a single mom. He didn't have any kids yet. His ex-girlfriend was pregnant when I met him. So I was coming into this relationship, and going to be, potentially a bonus mom to this unborn child. So I kind of felt like, oh, I need to make him a better person because he's going to be a dad of his own child. And so I took on that role of not only, caring for him, but then fast forwards and baby comes, and I'm second mom. I'm the one at, she was not even a month old when she first started staying overnight with him. And so I would come over to his house and take care of her. I was her other mom.
So, and how did that
looking
feel?
back, oh my gosh. So I have 3 boys. I had lost a daughter. She was 3 months old. And so my entire life, I just wanted to have a daughter. And so here I am thinking, oh, I have the chance to be a mom of a daughter. And so I took on that responsibility 100% head on, loved every second of it. And looking back, I honestly don't think that I would have stayed in this relationship if it were not for my bonus daughter. You know, like, it's just, here's this baby. She needs me. I can't leave her. So that was probably the biggest factor of me staying as long as I did. And right or wrong, I mean, that was me. Like, that was, I'm a mom to this little girl. And not only that, realizing that he can't take care of himself, let alone his own daughter, like, I couldn't just leave. It became like my responsibility to take care of everybody.
Yeah, that's got to be exhausting.
Super exhausting. But I did it. I loved it.
Yeah. So when did the relationship start having problems? Or when were you vocal about your unhappiness?
So I said we got together in around 2006-07 time, and then we didn't live in the same household for about a year, and then we didn't get married until 2011. So we had been together for quite a few years. I often talk about the roller coaster ride of being with an alcoholic. And so, you almost get addicted to the addict, and you are holding on for dear life onto this roller coaster. And so you have the ups and the downs, and you have all of these empty promises that you honestly believe are true. And you believe that there is no way that he is going to continue to do this. There's no way he's going to not stay sober. He just told me we are going to go to dinner with friends and he's not going to drink tonight. So he's not going to. But of course he would, and he would let me down. And then becomes the ups and the downs, oh, I'm so sorry, the love bombing, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to try harder. You believe it, lets you down, and it's that constant. And so we got married, and then we were married for about a year, and I actually moved out. I finally, I had enough. I moved back to my hometown, which was 12 hours away. I didn't talk to him for an entire year. And then I came back. He got a hold of me. I left everything. And I moved my kids back to my hometown. And I blocked him from everything. And then about 8 months later, he got a hold of me and somehow convinced me that it was a great idea to move back in and come back. And one of the things he used was my bonus daughter. And he would send pictures, and she misses you, and then, so long story short, I came back.
Using the child to manipulate, right?
Yes, 100%. 100%. And I missed her so much. When I was gone, it was like losing a child again. Like I missed her so much. And so when I came back, I felt like, okay, I can't ever leave her again. And I just have to stick it out until she graduates, and I'm going to do this. And so came back, and at the time, we didn't have any children together. And so I thought, yeah, absolutely, this is what's going to make him want to not drink and stay sober. And so we were blessed with a beautiful baby girl in 2015. And she rocks an extra chromosome. She's beautiful. Life is better with her. And that just made things worse for him. My bonus daughter also has special needs, severe learning disability. But then our little rock star daughter together is she just is so delightful. And she's just the best thing that could have ever happened to me. But at the same time, I feel like she wasn't perfect in his eyes, and that maybe he took on like some kind of weird, like, this is my fault type of thing, even though it's a chromosomal defect. It has nothing to do with him, but he took it personally. And I feel like after that, just life just got harder for him, and drinking just was super bad. So I had our daughter in 2015, and in 2016 is when I very first bought the Love Over Addiction program. Like, it was something I had, like, I think I looked up, like, how to get your husband sober, honestly. It was crazy.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and now I know, like, that's not possible. So, yeah. And you really think, like, that's possible. Like, there's a book out there.
Right.
It's so crazy to look back now. But, I don't know. I feel like I just was so stuck. I didn't know what else to do. And so, in 2016 is when I started my personal journey of, not only this amazing program, but, really found that no, there is no book. There's no right answer. Nothing I could do is going to change him. And that, and, I had to realize that if anything was going to change, it had to be myself. I had to be the change, because he was not going to do that. No matter how much I wanted him to be sober, he couldn't be. And my role in that was, I enabled it, because I felt like I would be judged. I felt like if my Facebook life didn't reflect my real life and people knew that somehow that was me failing. And I had to realize that it doesn't matter what other people think. It's none of my business what other people think of me. And at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to go to sleep by myself, crying myself to sleep. And I'm the one that is left, like, feeling so empty and alone and just shattered so often. And it wasn't until, I think, like, so I did the Love Over Addiction. I started that in 2016. And that is when I focused on myself, started loving myself, like pouring just so much into myself, and realizing that if I wasn't the best me that I could possibly be, what am I showing my daughters? Like, what am I showing my sons? That I can just be completely set aside and treated with nothing but disrespect. And you often say that, we're in love with a good man who suffers from this addiction. But at the end of the day, I knew that this disease had taken away that good man. He was no longer that guy that I fell in love with. But I also, looking back, like, I really have to do a lot of self-inventory and really looking at why did I stay and what kept me there. And it wasn't so much him and the things that he did or said that made me feel good. It was the idea of him, the thought that he could potentially be this person that I wanted him to be. So badly, I wanted him to be a better person. And there's a country song that says, I wish you were a better man. And it's so true. It's so, like, but he couldn't be. Like, I couldn't make him be that person I wanted him to be. And so you just kind of have that aha moment where you're like, wait, I have to be the better person. I have to do what I can do. And the sad thing is that the other reason that it took me so long, it took me 4 years to get where I'm at right now, is because I fell into the cycle of letting him slowly take over little by little. So when I came back, I let him, I should say in little air quotes, I let him get me a cell phone in his name instead of just mine. And I let him buy me a vehicle in his name instead of mine. You know, I allowed that. I allowed that financial abuse to occur, not knowing it at all. I allowed him to use my own. Can you explain
really quickly? Because that's really, really important what you just said, and I love where you're going. Can you explain to people who don't understand financial abuse why? Because, like, I could see some people being like, wait, you think that's financial abuse that he bought you a car and a phone? What do you mean? So can you explain why you're now looking back on that and thinking, that was considered, would you mind explaining that and unpacking that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So when I moved away, I had nothing. I had a vehicle and my cell phone. That was all I had. Those were my belongings. And I packed up the back of my car with my kids' clothes and some of mine. I left everything behind. And I started over. When I came back, I then let him, put my cell phone, we did the family plan. And so I no longer had, and in fact, he would get mad at me and say, kick me out of the house or tell me to get the F out. And he would shut off my phone because it wasn't in my name anymore. And so at the time, I'm thinking, oh yeah, how nice. Like, he's putting me on his family plan and I don't have to pay for that expense anymore. And the other thing was, you don't need to work anymore. You stay home with the kids. I appreciate everything. I'm going to support our family. And that would then turn into a drunken night of, this house is not yours, your car's not yours, your phone's not yours, where are you going to go? So I would feel stuck. I was isolated. I was intimidated. I was threatened and told, oh, if you leave, I'm taking your car. Your car's not in your name. What are you going to do? How are you going to leave? Who are you going to call? I'll turn off your phone. And so it started as this wonderful gesture, but really it's this calculated isolation now I know it's the what is it called? The power and control wheel, which is something that I learned through the local alliance for women of, abused women. When I was handed a piece of paper that had this power and control wheel, it talks about all of these things, physical abuse, emotional abuse, isolation, minimizing, denying, blaming, using children, economic and financial abuse, every single thing in that wheel, I was living. And I thought, what? Me? What? No, I'm not an abused woman. But I was. I 100% was. But you're in such denial. Again, you don't want people to know these things, and you feel embarrassed, you feel ashamed. But there's no reason to. I mean, once you leave the situation, it's so easy. I mean, that ridiculous saying hindsight is 2020. I always thought, oh gosh, whatever. It is. It 100% is. And you don't realize these things until you're out of the situation. You can't, you don't know. I mean, that's all you know. And who are you telling? Who are you going to tell that these things are happening? And like you said, when you tell your friends, oh my gosh, my phone is in his name. And people think, well, just get your own phone. No, I didn't work. I had no financial stability. So after I left, when I came back, I made sure that I had my own account that he didn't know about, that he couldn't be on, that was my own money. And I slowly started working part-time, and from September of 2020 until February of 2021, for 6 months, every single dime that I made went into savings. Everything.
Good girl.
Because I knew. And I remembered listening to, I think, one of your podcasts about and this started way back in 2016, that you had said something about putting money on gift cards, like cash, so that if it ever got found, they can't take it and they don't realize. So I started doing that back in 2014. I had Visa gift cards. I had Target gift cards. I had Walmart gift cards. I mean, and I had them everywhere. And so I saved, and I was determined. I was determined that I was not going to live like this ever again. Like I knew that I couldn't stay stuck. And it was up to me to just keep on plugging away. It took a while. I mean, it took 4 years. It took me, so not only did I leave the first time and moved out, but in 2018, there was a time when I had to call the police. He kept my daughter from me. It was just a huge mess. And he had to leave the house. And so he left for, I think, 4 months. And then is really when I knew, okay, I got to get my stuff together. So it takes time, but it's worth it. I mean, you're worth it. Your happiness is worth it. Your health. I mean, just thinking what that physically and mentally, what that does to your body and your mind, and you believe those things. You believe that you're not worth, who's going to want to be with somebody who has 4 kids, he would say. Well, I know somebody.
Because how do you know someone? What happened?
So let's see. I decided I was leaving in February of 2021. And actually, my ex-husband was at least once a week not coming home at night. Literally going to the bar in the middle of the day and just not coming home. And so this happened for quite a few months, and I finally was like, this is ridiculous. And so our daughter together had an open heart surgery in January. And I had reconnected with an old high school crush who was also, his late wife was dying of cancer. And so we had reconnected, and just nothing, other than being old classmates and literally sharing daily prayers for each other. I've told this story a couple of times. I call it my bacon story. And so my daughter had her surgery, and it was January 2nd of 2021. And my now ex-husband had said that he was going to be sober the night before and didn't. And so he was feeling guilty, and he got up and he made us all breakfast. And he was being super unkind throughout the morning, and he came upstairs and said, breakfast is ready. So I went downstairs, and I noticed that the bacon that he had cooked was not fully cooked. And so I just said, hey, I think that we need to throw this bacon back on the griddle because it's not fully cooked. And he just started yelling and telling me that if I wanted bacon cooked the way I wanted it, I can cook it my effing self, and just blew up at me. And so I just slowly walked up the stairs. I shut my door in my bedroom. I got on my knees and I prayed. And I said, if this is my life, if this is what you want me to live, give me the strength to live it. I need help. But if this is not my life, please show me that there is something else out there. Maybe there's somebody, something. I just need you to show me that this is not what I am supposed to be doing if I'm not supposed to be doing it. And I was just beside myself. So one of my boundaries was if my husband drank too much and I had the girls, that I would leave, because obviously he's not leaving. And so fast forward to that evening, and he had drank all day, and I had a bag. I always had a bag packed for myself and my two girls. And this wasn't the first time that I had left. So we went to a hotel that we actually frequented a lot. And I had fun. We ordered creme brulee. We had the best time. And that night, my now husband messaged me and just said, hey, how are you? You look like life is great, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, actually, I'm in a hotel because my husband is an alcoholic, and kind of gave him the story. And then he said, and I said, how, I've been following you on CaringBridge. How is everything? And he said, not good. And so later that month, he lost his wife in January. And a month later, I moved out of my house. And a month later, my now husband told me, hey, I had the hugest crush on you in high school. And I said, be quiet. I had the hugest crush on you. And the rest is history. Like it was a huge whirlwind romance, and we found each other at the perfect time. Like, it's a crazy Hallmark story. He's everything I ever wanted my ex-husband to be and more. And it's so crazy that I didn't realize until I was out of my relationship that I could be so loved, that I could be cherished and respected and adored and listened to. And my husband he is so incredibly amazing. I now also have 3 bonus children, so I'm starting all over. And I love them, and they love me. I mean, our family is what we needed, all of us, and the timing of it is just crazy. But it's beautiful. It's more than, and the other thing is, here we are, like, my husband now, and I both, I mean, I feel like our 2 broken hearts were like wounded, and like we just found each other at the right time, and it was like each of our broken hearts just like mended each other. And not only do I have trauma, he has trauma. My bonus children, they've lost a mother, and so our family just cherishes life. I mean, we just don't take anything for granted. And I love my new bonus children just as much as I loved my bonus daughter. And life is good. Life is healthy and happy. And, my husband comes home and opens a can of LaCroix coconut water, not a beer.
so funny how that could like make us love them so much. Like a can of LaCroix, and you're like, I love you. It's so true though. It's the simple, when you've been through hell, it's like you appreciate the simple things so much more. And you hear women like that are in marriages that with a sober guy, and they're like, you know, he just drives me nuts because he doesn't, you know, put the toilet seat down. And you're like, look, if that were the only problem that I have, I would be so grateful. But like, you do those little things. They just mean they become so much more than just a can of LaCroix, don't they?
Yeah, for sure. And like I always say, like, so my ex-husband had this horrific problem of urinating on the bed and the couch and in the corners and all over the toilet seat and all over the floor. And I would be like, can you just like wipe up your, like the toilet? Like, I don't want to sit on that. And now I say, like, not only does my current husband not pee on the toilet seat, but he cleans the toilet. Like, I didn't know that was possible.
That's awesome. That's so great. Oh my gosh. Isn't that just so like full circle? Like, you're right. I mean, it's a toilet, but it's so true. Like, he's urinating where he's supposed to. So that's a win. You know, like, and also he's cleaning it up. So that's terrific. God, that's great. What do you when you think back on like your past, what do you think of when you think about the woman you were when you were married to him, to your ex-husband?
Oh my goodness. So I feel like when you are in a relationship with somebody who suffers from alcoholism, you can't control them. So you have to control, you feel like you have to control everything else. Mm-hmm. And so I was so uptight. Like, I was so wound tight. If my ex-husband was in the room, if he was in the house, I was so wound tight. Like, is he going to drink? You know, hearing the can of beer being opened triggered me, and I was a different person.
Totally.
And so upset. And the other thing was, and I've heard you talk about this, is like, I remember specifically you saying something about you felt like if the house was perfect and you put lip gloss on and you looked good, then he was going to be, you know, why wouldn't he want to be sober? Like, why wouldn't he be just happy with life, right? Like, why not?
Right.
Why can't you be? That rang so true to me, because I would stay up endless hours organizing, cleaning, vacuuming multiple times a day with 4 kids in the house, a dog and a cat, and still have like the most pristine home ever. It was ridiculous. Like, it always had to be magazine perfect. That's not real. I think that my now current husband wishes that I was maybe a little more uptight, because I like a tidy home. Like, I love organizing. I love being tidy. But at the same time, I know that my husband is not going to yell and scream at me or go to the bar because he says that this or that is not clean. You know, like, I kind of feel bad for my now husband, because he likes a clean house too. So we're clean. But some days I'm like, just gonna not do dishes today. Like, I have other things I have to do. And he's so great. He'll just do it. But
I love that. I love that.
I appreciate it so much, because I did everything. We would go on these vacations. So I'm packing for 6 people. I color coordinated our outfits and packed them by the day, every single person, for sometimes 10
like me.
days.
Yeah.
Yes.
I put them in, I color coordinated them, put them in the day, put them in Ziploc bags.
Yes. Everybody had a Ziploc color. Yes.
Ridiculous. I had so many subscriptions to Martha Stewart and what is that other one? Real Simple.
Home Edit.
Yeah, Home Edit.
I'm Home Edit now.
Like, yeah, because if you can't control your husband, you got to control everything else too, along with it.
Yes.
And you think that this is going to help them in some way get sober, which is hilarious looking back on it now. And I had that trait going into my second marriage. I brought it in for like a year, and I had 6 kids in the house. And I remember my friend stopping by and like going into the kitchen, and she's like, how do you do this? Like, your house is spotless. You have these 6 kids. The beds are made. The pillows are fluffed. And then, like, the more that I actually started to feel safe in my second marriage, and I could relax more, now, I mean, if a neighbor were to walk in my house and be like, I'm so sorry. Like, don't look in that. Don't look over there. Just, like, keep your head down. Keep walking. Because when you feel safe and you feel unconditionally loved and you feel like the person that married you for reasons that are not about how much you can produce or how perfect you are, it feels like you could just relax, let go, and just be yourself and enjoy being loved.
Yes. Yes. My husband last night was just laying on the couch, and I was, getting things ready for the kids for school tomorrow and just doing just little things. It wasn't a big deal. And he kept saying, do you need me to help? I said, no, I got it. I'm good. Are you sure? I just feel like I'm not doing anything. I'm like, no, relax. You just worked all day. I got this. And then vice versa, like the one thing he wanted for Christmas this year was for us to stay home the entire time. And he wanted to give me something that because we bought a home together. So we've been doing projects and painting. And he said, I just want to get one big project done for you. And so he ripped out the stairs and put hardwood flooring and laminate cover on it. That was my present. I was like, you're amazing. Like, you're the best human ever. Like, I just want to kiss your face. Like, you are amazing. Like, that's what you want to do on your 10-day vacation, is just do something that makes me happy. He's so great. And he said, we go on dates to Costco and
I love it.
That's
the churros.
We love it.
And the hot dogs and the churros. They're the best things ever. Totally. And they're like $3 for like a 10-foot churro. I love Costco.
We take selfies in the freezer department and say, date day. Like,
that is awesome.
It's a little thing.
I know. I told you before we started recording that I have COVID, and do not worry for anyone listening. We are recording. We are not together. We are in entirely different states right now. But I didn't want to reschedule, so I have COVID right now. And I said to my husband, I'm normally the one that cooks dinner, just because I've always done that. And so last night I had defrosted some flank steak for us to cook, and then I started not feeling well. So he literally, like, this is a man who has never cooked ever. And I was like, he got out a flank steak recipe from Ina Garden, one of my favorite cookbooks, and made a marinade, cooked shallot. I didn't even know he knew what shallots was. I walked in, he's got the shallots measured, the garlic chopped. He made a marinade, and he brought it up to me at bed. And I thought, like you said, it's like this never would have happened in my first marriage, ever. In fact, I remember being sick, like deathly sick. Not really, that's an exaggeration, but like very, very sick. And he took off and went drinking and left me alone with 3 kids while I was puking my brains out.
Yep.
Like, it's so, like, and I literally last night when he brought me the plate of flank steak and Brussels sprouts, I wanted to cry. And I've been married to him. I've been with him for over 12 years. And I'm like, oh, my God, I love you so. Because it's like once you've been in that horrible, abusive relationship, it's like you just become so, you have the most rich marriage, the remarriage, that you know, because you're just so grateful. It's like you're just so grateful for all of the normal things that everyone else takes for granted and thinks is just like a given. We're like just like, and it's not a matter of having low self-esteem. It's not like, oh, I can't believe a guy cooked for me because I'm so unworthy. It's like, no, you really genuinely are so grateful for the acts of love, and you give them back too. Like it's a very reciprocal, healthy relationship. So have you, if you don't mind me asking, in your new marriage, have you guys had an argument? Like, what's the argument style now, or the disagreement style now, versus with your first marriage?
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. I never thought I'd say that, but so my husband loves me to pieces. Like it's so cute. Like, and I love him the same. Like we just love deeply. And he always tells me, like when I get upset with him, he just kind of smiles at me and he says, my brown-eyed girl, you are my brown-eyed girl. I'm like, what does that mean? Because he's like, you love deep and you get so angry. Like when you mean business, you mean business, and you are not messing around. And he's like, you're lucky, you're so cute, because I like want things, and we're the oldest children, and so we both want things our way. And I'm so used to having to negotiate and fight and defend and just argue, and I'm used to somebody calling me names and yelling at me and like screaming in my face that, you know, my ex-husband would like scream and spit on my face with his, you know, while he was yelling at me. And my current husband is so sweet and so patient and so kind, and we both have learned from each other. I think the first time that I ever got really upset, I just was like, no, done. Like I just shut down. And then he came back later and said, listen, I am not your ex-husband. I am not that person. I'm not going to be that person. I'm never going to treat you that way. And I don't want you to treat me that way. And it took one time of me realizing, oh yeah, like I don't have to be a jerk. Like I can talk to him. He's going to listen. And he's listening to listen and learn and hear me. He's not listening to respond. Like he's legit wanting to know. And he listens to everything. Like he knows me so well. I'm like, what? I told you that? Yeah, remember? Like it's incredible. And even like we're human. We're obviously not always going to agree on things, and that's okay. Like I've learned that's okay. We don't always have to agree. But the thing is that like one day he is super kind. Like he's not a crabby guy, but he was having an off day at work and he was just kind of off, and I could tell. And so I waited, and he said a few things that were just not as kind as usual. Not anything like mean, but it just wasn't himself. And so when he came to bed that night, we shower together every single night, by the way. And so he came to go get in the shower. He turned on the shower, and I was laying in bed, and I said, wait, can you please turn off the shower? And he was like, oh. And I said, I'd like to talk about this. And so we just talked through, like, you said this, and that's not your normal response. And he was like, oh, okay. I said, and I felt like you were not being kind. And he said, you're right, I wasn't. That was it. Like that's our disagreements. And then we sat and talked for like 2 hours about, you know, other things that I was like, and the other day you said this and that kind of hurt my feelings. And he's like, you know what? When you say this, that kind of hurts my feelings. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. Like this is a real thing. I can tell somebody how I'm feeling, and I'm not getting ridiculed. I'm not being treated like I'm less than because I have feelings. And
you're not being told you're wrong. You're not being gaslit. You're not you're not being told you're wrong. You're not being belittled. You're not being made fun of. Your past isn't coming up and being used against you. You know that you can speak your mind, and it's not going to leave with like the slamming of the door so they leave and then they don't answer their text messages or phones or whatever.
Right. It's never.
It's like so you are talking to somebody who is committed to your relationship and wants the same goal as you, which is let's get through this conversation both with more love and more respect than when we started it. And like you don't have to worry that what you're going to say is going to be used against you or have terrible consequences for your kids or, the party next week or whatever you're going to. It's just, it's a whole nother, you have to unlearn what you had been learning in your first marriage. You have to unlearn that, and it sounds like it's happening at a really great accelerated rate for you, which is wonderful. Mm-hmm. It did not happen that fast for me. It happened a little bit slower than for you. But for me, I still was operating out of such a place of fear in my second marriage. But I think it's wonderful.
I had to learn how to be vulnerable. Like I had to let myself feel things, and I had to let myself, I'm not a big crier, and my now current husband always says like, you don't cry. So I know if you're crying, something is wrong. Yeah. But I let myself, I allow myself to feel everything, sad, mad, glad. And I'm allowed to speak and say like, I'm sad, I miss my kids or, and I'm not being treated like, oh, quit being a baby. I'm never told things. And, when I say, like, I can just say, honey, you're not being kind. He'll just feel so guilty and say, oh my gosh, that is not my intention. I'm so sorry. I never got that. Are you kidding me? I would be cleaning up my husband's pee from the couch and he'd be like, well, I mean, if you wouldn't have fought with me, I wouldn't have gotten so drunk. I mean, like, right. There was never any accountability for his actions.
Or honesty.
None.
Like, no honesty to sit there and say, you're right, I was kind of like not in a great mood and might have treated you poorly. Like, I apologize. I remember when I was started dating my husband and he did that the first time, I nearly fell off my chair. I thought it was like a joke. I was like, what are you mocking me? No, because you just don't believe it's real. You don't believe it's real. And I love what you just said about being vulnerable because I'm not a crier either, and I've started to become one. I've started to become a crier more and more as I've felt safer and safer in this marriage. Before, I think instead of crying, my antithesis was yelling or like anger, right? Or shutting down, like you said, or leaving, like grabbing my keys and going. And instead, when you feel safe and loved unconditionally, I think you are allowed to cry because you know, like you just said, someone's going to be there to embrace that and not tear you to pieces about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
great. Go ahead.
My husband, so he's my best friend, 100% best friend. Mm-hmm. Like I have lots of girlfriends. I'm a social person and I love my girlfriends. I love my time with my girlfriends. And my husband also encourages me to have relationships, which I was never encouraged to go out. If I went out with girlfriends, I was getting text messages the whole time, guilted, and you must be cheating on me and just crazy. And it was so much something that I voiced with my current husband of, my life that I lived, that it was a joke that I went on vacation with my family and my now husband was like, would you like me to text you every once in a while and call you bad names, just so you're feeling comfortable. This was when we were first dating. I was like, haha, not funny. Funny, not funny. Okay, well, it's kind of funny. So that's helped me. Like, he's helped me heal, and he knows that some days. And the other thing that is amazing about my husband. He's super smart, but he knows that there are certain things that are going to trigger me and is mindful of that and my soft place to land always. And lets me feel anything, you know, and doesn't take it personal if I'm having because I'm still dealing with a custody situation. And so my husband has been 100% so supportive and knows how hard this is. And it's just something, there's just something to be said about finding that partner who is so supportive after all of this and gets you and gets it and loves me, loves the damaged me. You know, there is nothing in my past that my husband will ever judge me. My husband will never say why did you stay? You know, we have conversations and he's the one who helps me do you think that this is why you did this? Or, you know, give yourself grace. Maybe this is why you stayed. Or maybe, you know, and we both say that I live with zero regrets because if it weren't for the timing, maybe if things hadn't happened when they did, I wouldn't have ended up with my husband. So, you know, I wasn't ready in 2016 and my husband, obviously he was still married and maybe I would have ended up with somebody else and it would have been another bad relationship. Yeah. So I just always stay positive in remembering that everything happens for a reason. I took the time to put myself first. I did the work and I have this amazing relationship because of that. If I hadn't have spent the last, 6 years, 4 years, whatever it is, investing in myself, I wouldn't have been able to be in a relationship and give what I can give now.
Totally. I love this. I keep saying totally because it must get annoying, but I'm 100% in agreement with you. I think that's how you could function so well into your second relationship. A lot of people can't do that, right? They need that growth time in between, a longer growth time. But if you were alone for so long already, and then you took those 4 to 6 years to really, like you said, do the work. I love this. I think I'm so happy for you. And I know that your story is going to help so many people understand, it is possible. It is. And, it's tempting to think you found the one man on earth that's willing to do this. I would challenge anyone who's thinking that to say more along the lines of most people are decent, kind human beings that when they propose or when they want to partner with you, want the best for you and them and are willing to work as much on the marriage or relationship as you are. It's just, we buy the lie that we're not deserving of that, or that's not really out there for us. It's not possible in our future. And that is exactly what addiction wants us to believe. So I love that you were courageous enough to get out and find something so wonderful, so healthy.
Yeah. I say that I no longer hold a season pass to that awful roller coaster ride. That ticket is expired.
So great.
That
I love it.
Yeah.
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 We're getting off this ride, getting out of this park.
Sorry, out of the park. It's when I first started listening to your podcast, you always said, stay in your lane, stay in your lane. And, that got me through a lot while I stayed in my lane while I was with my alcoholic husband. So now it's not stay in your lane. No, it's get off that road. So I have moved out, literally and figuratively, I have moved out of that town. I'm not staying in my lane. I'm completely off the road.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so great.
And it's a great view.
Yeah. Aww, that's so great. I'm really happy for you. I love this.
Thank you.
Will you keep me posted on how you're doing?
Of course.
And how the custody situation goes? You are a great mom. You are incredibly loving, and
Thank you.
I am very grateful. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yes, thank you for taking your time. I appreciate you.
This podcast is created for your support, encouragement, and entertainment with my personal thoughts and beliefs. We are bonded together by the fact that we love someone suffering from addiction. This is not intended as a substitute for therapy or advice from a professional.